Um, but when you have stress, or if you are even just concentrating on something like a task, or if the weight of the world, which is heavy right now, is leaning on you, it's very easy for us to kind of shrink ourselves. And I wonder sometimes whether it's a wrapping around the heart that we're trying to do with the breath hold, if we're trying to just kind of protect this chakra of our body, that the chakra where that anahata, this sense of a place within us that cannot be harmed, if we wrap it a little bit in protection, which would make sense. But regardless, we need to have big, beautiful, healthy breathing for us to have vitality. So the more we can what we do on our mats, if we can make sure that we're bringing it out into the rest of our day and paying attention to how we're breathing, it can be very helpful. So, your yoga homework is to notice your breathing. And it doesn't mean you have to do anything fancy, or, like bust out some pranayama in the middle of your drive or whatever, but just to have an awareness of, oh, I'm holding my breath right now. And if you notice a shallow or a breath hold, if you have time to step back and pause for a moment and ask yourself, what was I just thinking about? What was my emotional state? How is my body? If you can kind of dip into an awareness of your present moment self, you might start noticing some patterns that when you think about certain things, or if you have certain stressors going on, that when those take hold of you, you might notice that you have these patterns set up. So let's breathe. Okay, and that's simple as that. Let's breathe and try to be very aware of our breathing throughout the day as best as we can. All right, so to begin, find a very comfortable seat, where I'm up on the edge of a bolster, but maybe you're on a chair or on a block or something. But take some time to get your body in a place where you're not here, you're not collapsed, where you're not sinking, staring in front of a computer or on a steering wheel or just curled over yourself. So bring an opening into your body. And let's have a couple of moments of a little squeeze of the shoulder blades behind you. So give them a good squeeze and then a release, and a little bit of a squeeze and a release. Okay, so like you're trying to squeeze a pencil between your shoulder blades, kind of connecting with the shoulder blades and the spine. And not that this is like what you want to do walking around all day, but just give some awareness. Okay. And then let's do some shoulder rolling here. So just notice your shoulders, kind of rolling them up and back. Okay. And then go the other direction and roll your shoulders forward. And then maybe one shoulder back so you get your ribs to have some movements. Alana, isn't this one of the best things about swimming, right? It's just this rhythmic movement of your shoulders, and go the other way. All right, now stretch I have my hand on the ground, stretch open to one side and stretch open to the other side. And just very simple moves to bring us into an awareness of our rib cage and our chest. And then cactus the arms, maybe just bring the whole arms into the equation. And maybe a little pressing out with your hands, maybe flipping your palms open, flipping them down, rolling them, whatever feels good. And bring them up, maybe look up, and then bring your hands down. And just take a notice. We're going to do one more thing before some breath. So a simple twist. Let's reach the right arm up, bring it to the outside of the knee and twist to the side. Start to feel that you're breathing. We're not holding our breath. And then coming to the other side. And everything we've just done, you can do while you're sitting at your desk. If you're on a computer, There's no reason why any of those actions can't be done. Just a quick 1 or 2 minutes to just refresh yourself if you feel like you've locked yourself into this pattern, right? Okay, so let's complete this with just a little bit of a cat cow, hands on knees, so we can arch and lift our chin, touch our teeth, round your spine, kind of roll your spine back. All right, so anything else that you feel like you need to do, a little neck roll if you feel it, anything at all. And then let's find stillness for just a moment. So close your eyes and notice just that little bit of attuning to the body. If it's giving you just a little bit more space for breathing, awareness for breathing. Just relax your face. Come home into the feeling of your breath. So be so curious, so patient. Bring yourself into a sense of presence where we have this beautiful openness. Nothing has to happen. You don't have to push the breath, you don't have to manipulate. Just be aware of allowing yourself to breathe. Let your belly move. Feel that your diaphragm has so much space. There's nothing holding it back. Let's just have the teeniest bit of manipulation. So just imagine that the walls of your throat are like two banks of a river. And we want to have a beautiful stream of breath, like a pouring a smooth stream. So there's this ever so slight constriction around the throat where we're narrowing the channel for both the inhale and for the exhale. Sense of Ujjayi, where we're just banking the rivers, creating a pathway that's directed, smooth, steady, and slightly narrowed. Of course, we're breathing through our nose unless you're really congested and you can't, but let both the inhale and the exhale happen through your nose if you can, keeping your jaw relaxed, your tongue relaxed, your eyes relaxed. Notice if you're shrinking at all, keep that spaciousness we've cultivated in your shoulders and ribs awake and alive. Now move your awareness down into the volume of your rib cage a little bit. So imagine that you're pouring and filling the bottom of your lungs, and then the middle of your lungs, and then the upper part of your lungs. And then when you exhale, releasing the upper first, and then the middle, and then the bottom parts of your ribs. So just, you don't have to pause, like we're not doing a Viloma breath where we're pausing, but just have this sense of expansion starting from the bottom up and the release starting from the top down. Notice the shape of your spine, your where your head's balanced. Try to find efficiency and ease. Notice the rib cage under the armpits. Notice the rib cage in the back of your body. Try to quiet the upper traps and the scalenes around your neck. Of course, they're accessory. They're moving a little bit, but they're not your primary movers of breath. Your diaphragm is your primary mover of breath. The last, just subtle manipulation we'll do is a little bit longer on the exhale. And I know that you all know I recommend this breath a lot, but if you're feeling anxious, if the weight of the world and all that's happening kind of presses on you very specifically, something personal to you, something global, anything in between, if you feel that that heavy weight of anxiety or grief kind of settling upon you, let's see if we can remember to keep the exhales just a little stretched out longer, to give our nervous system an opportunity to right itself, to set itself into that parasympathetic drive. Sometimes if you're really struggling with being able to cultivate this, if you're, if your breath is kind of like a horse that's left the barn, pursed lips exhales, if you can't breathe out through your nose, if you really need a strong manipulation on the exhale, pursed lips exhales will help you slow down. Maybe try a couple of rounds of that, even if you don't need it in this moment. Practice. If you never practice healthy breathing, it's harder to access these things when we need them. So, when you're feeling calm and good and relaxed, these are the times to really cultivate your breath patterns so that you have them available to you when you need. Notice how an awareness of cultivating good breath is helping you. What's happening now. Have a little check in with all of your koshas. So let's start with the physical body. How is your body feeling through the movement through breath? Is your body feeling relaxed or stiff or loose? Do you have a sense of lightness or heaviness? What are you feeling? And then travel a little deeper. How is the emotional body? What is the state of how emotions are landing in your body? How is the quality of your mind? That sense of thinking and all the flotsam that comes. Is there a sense of steadiness starting to arrive? And even deeper, that sense of a deep sense of self, a groundedness of awareness here, this moment, present moment. Do you feel a sense of rootedness and wholeness? Never underestimate the power of just spending a few moments with your breath to give you what you need in your vitality and in your presence and in your groundedness. And let's bring our palms together. And when you do, try not to shrink into that, hunched posture. Keep alive. Let's have our hands right at our heart and lift them an inch away from your heart. And then have that imaginary cord of lifting the heart to meet your hands without tension in your back, but just an openness across the heart space. And let's offer an intention here. Release the hands and see if the main soup that you're swimming in our practice today can be the breath. If you can keep your mind's eye on paying attention to just keeping a steady breath, not holding your breath, keeping the breath fluid, keeping the breath full, and it doesn't have to be over accentuated. You don't have to hyperventilate or like feel like you're sucking in these deep breaths, but just a nice awareness and a nice sense
keeping your body open and available to receive the rhythm of your breathing. All right, so come onto your back, stretch your arms overhead, and let's reach your sides a little bit, stretching the right side and stretching the left side, and just a simple awakening of the side bodies and how nice it can feel. We're going to turn our body into the letter C a little bit. So walk our legs over to the left, walk your arms and torso over to the left, and then sink your shoulders and your hips down, your ribs down. And just enjoy. You can grab onto your hands. You can cross your ankles if you want. You don't have to do either of those things. Full breaths. And then come back and let's see to the right. So bring your rib cage, your shoulders, your arms a little bit over to the right, bring your legs over to the right. Feel free to hook hands or ankles if you need a little support. Feel free to keep them open if that's better for your body. Always being sure that you're caring for your body the way it needs. Sometimes extreme movements are, trying, so you be in your body best as you can be. And then come back to center, noticing your breath. Bend your knees, put your feet on the ground, bring your arms straight out to the sides, and let's windshield wiper our knees and come into a little bit of a twist here. Okay, rocking left to right. All right. And draw your right knee into your chest. Stretch your left leg long on the ground. Give your ankles a moment in the sun. So roll and shift your feet around, wiggle your toes, just loosening things up. And give a good squeeze of that knee. And then we're going to cross the right knee over to the left. A fairly big twist here, so be mindful of how much you dole out in this pose. Open up across your pecs. Turn your head if it's comfy. Full breath here. Just enjoy all the space across your chest and into your armpit for your breathing. See if you can kind of let your breath travel underneath your pec muscles. And then come back to center, give that knee a good squeeze in again. Straighten that leg on the ground, switch sides, left knee into the chest. Head is heavy. Feel free to move your ankles around again. Feeling that movement and freedom, wiggling your toes, a good squeeze of the knee. And then when you're ready, let's cross the left knee over to the right, and you can put a block under there if you want, or just hold it with your hand. Maybe you get all the way to the floor. I don't. That's a little too deep of a twist for my liking right now. So you do you. Support how you need. Arm open to the side. Turn your head to the left if it's available. And see what it feels like. Notice your chest. And you can feel free to move your arm a little bit, kind of slide your hand on the ground to find the sweet spot of where you want your pecs to open up to. Breathe underneath those pecs. Release that starfish your body out, reaching into your fingers and your toes. Wiggle, roll your wrists, roll your ankles, wiggle your fingers and your toes. And on your next exhale, when it comes, draw your knees in. Maybe your head comes up too. Okay. And one more time, move your breath into your whole body. Starfish your limbs wide as you inhale. Hug in as you exhale. I feel like these starfishes are a great way to attune the breath to the body. Do a couple of them. Feeling your whole body breathe in and your whole body breathe out. Put your head onto the ground. Keep your knees in. Rock a little bit, swaying. A good squeeze. And now let's come to a happy baby, and you could hold behind your knees or the bottom of your feet. Kind of check in with your back and make sure whatever you're doing is an okay pose for you. A little rocking here if you want to, a little stillness. Notice your breath. All right. And release your feet down onto the ground. Cross your right thigh over your left thigh. Draw your knees toward your chest, hands on knees, okay. Finding your breath. Let your head get heavy, shoulders are relaxed. Dip your tail toward the ground and widen your sit bones. Full breaths here. And let's lift the legs straight up in the air. Arms overhead if your core likes that. Arms down at your sides if your core doesn't like that. Let's point our toes toward the sky and then flex your toes toward your face. And just let the calves open up a little bit. Ribs hugging down toward the ground, so nice and stable through your torso. How are you breathing within this stability? And then we're going to put our feet down onto the ground, cross your left thigh over your right, draw those knees into the chest, shoulders heavy, head is heavy, tail is heavy. Full breathing. All right, last starfish out on the ground, spread your limbs, and then when you're ready, curl onto your side to roll over and come up onto all fours. Okay, so as you find your way into onto all fours and you start moving through some cat-cows, let's again be very mindful of our breathing. As you arch the back and round the back, try not to do anything without the breath originating your movements. So even if that means you move slower in your practice, see if you can wait for the breath to originate a movement change. So much of the time we can kind of whip through positions without even taking a single breath. So notice if that happens to you, if you tend to be a breath holder in any specific shape, like there might be patterns in your body where whenever you do that movement, you tend to hold your breath. All right, wag your tail. Remember, we're moving with breath. It doesn't mean you have to wait for one side to be the inhale and one side to be the exhale, but our breath is guiding our movements. All right, and then let's really feel into your rib cage. So do some rib cage rolling. So we're up toward the sky with the ribs, over to the side, down toward the earth, over to the other side. Try to really accentuate and feel where your ribs touch your spine. Feel all of those joints. Where your ribs touch your sternum, feel those joints. And even though it's not a classic joint, feel where your shoulder blades touch your ribs. All right, make sure you've gone both directions. All right, and then stretch back towards child's pose, walking the hands out in front of you far, letting your shoulders open up. Drop your weight down into your sit bones. Feel your head relax and soften. Let your breath travel down the back of your body in child's pose now. Take your two blocks and put them next to each other on the short edge so you have a train. Put your elbows on the train and then drop back again. Thumbs toward the spine. You can always curl your toes under if you need a little extra height underneath you. We're opening up the triceps. So even more than the triceps, see if you can stretch from your elbows to your ribs to your hips. So we feel that full opening under our armpits. Release and relax, and go ahead and bring the hands onto the ground. Let's find a twist. Left arm lifting up to the sky. Exhale, slide that shoulder under. When we come into a twist, there's a very unique type of compression on the lungs. So breathe in deeply, breathe out fully. Keep your neck relaxed and then ease. Reach that arm back up in the air, hand down onto the ground. Let's switch sides. Arm opening, arm dropping underneath, feeling that squeeze of the lungs with this twist. Breathe as deeply and fully as you can. Keep your neck quiet and relaxed. Can you touch into where the ribs meet the spine, where the ribs meet the sternum? Can you feel the viscera of your lung tissue touching up against your rib cage. Inhale and reach that arm all the way back up again. Hand down onto the ground. Okay, so now let's just practice having a lot of room for the diaphragm. This is, I think, a place where a lot of us hold tension. It can show up as stomach aches. It can show up as heartburn. There's lots of ways that a tight diaphragm can impact other parts of our body. So, well, I want you to make that sound. We're gonna let the belly fall. And just make some noise. You're all probably all by yourself, so try to make a lot of noise as you exhale. It could be a ha or any other sound that naturally, experiment. You can take other consonants instead of an H. La, ma, hua. Like just make some sounds on your exhales and try to let your diaphragm go. Ha. And just notice what's there. Full inhales come. So just have fun with it. Try to make all sorts of fun, funny noises and just experiment with what the sensation around your diaphragm feels like as you're doing this. Is there a deep visceral sensation that might be new, a new kind of quality feeling of release? All right, and then let's go ahead and curl the toes under, and we're going to lift this all the way up to a dog pose. All right, so let's pedal your feet here. You can bend your knees if you want to. Kind of pedaling your feet, let your the rest of your body kind of find its way into some of the joy of your postures. So doesn't it feel good to be in your body? Once you get your body settled, yield, feel that push, feel the reach, make lots of room for your breath. Keep your neck and head nice and relaxed. Maybe your exhales want to make some noise here. Maybe you want to feel a deep sense of fullness on your inhale. Can you breathe under your armpits? Can you breathe into your collarbones? Can you breathe into your bottom back ribs? And then let's walk our feet forward, come to Uttanasana, holding deeply. Maybe a nice bend in your knees. And then a halfway lift when you're ready. The spine can get a little bit longer, thigh bones up and back. And then when your exhale comes, release again. Remember, we're letting our breath guide the movements. Okay, so full halfway lift on the in-breath. And a full exhale as you release down. All right, let's push off your feet and come all the way up to stand. Take some time if you need it to get your blood pressure and your steadiness. Then when you're ready, reach up, reach back if it feels nice. Open across the belly, across the heart. And one more time like we did earlier, let's have a good squeeze of those shoulder blades in the back of our body. And let's place our hands at the base of our skull and open your elbows wide. Try to keep your neck nice and relaxed. Loosen your jaw and your tongue up. And tip back just a little bit. Notice what's available. And then reach those arms. One more time. Let's grab onto the right wrist with the left hand. Feel free to take a wider stance if you need it. And stretch up and over. Make sure you're breathing. Keep the base of the skull nice and relaxed. And instead of just switching to the other side, make a fist with your two hands. Roll forward, stretch the back of your ribs a little bit, and then over to the other side. Grab onto that wrist and find your way. Root into your feet. Feel that extension through your sides. Keep your neck nice and loose. Base of the skull soft. Back up. And then release your hands and give them a good shake. Make a fist one more time in front of you
And we're gonna stretch forward. So, we're kind of rounding the back here. And then hands to your heart and back bend just a little bit. And just do this a couple of rounds. Rounding your spine, your rib cage. Deep breath, open up, squeeze the shoulder blades one more time. All right, and release and relax. Okay, give your arms a good shake and we're gonna bounce. Okay. Now, just like you made some sounds with your loosening up your diaphragm when we were on all fours, make some noise. And you can sound like me or you can sound like you, anything that wants to come out of you, let it come. Imagine your lungs bouncing. Okay, so if someone, I think many of you might have heard or seen people with cerebral palsy or not cerebral palsy, cystic fibrosis, they get in these vests that vibrate and the vest just like jiggles them. And this is really good for lung tissue that gets, doesn't have a lot of capacity to have fluidity. So let's just imagine lots of that lung bounce going on. Okay, so of course, all of our joints and all of our fluids and our lymph and everything else is happy about this. But let's focus on what our lungs are feeling. Remember as a kid, if you stuck your face in front of a fan and you breathe out and it made some fun sounds and you enjoyed breathing and making noise? So breathe and make some noise. Anything that feels good. Okay. All right, and then pause in stillness for a moment. And just notice, of course, you probably feel like your entire bag of bones got shaken up a little bit, and that probably feels tingly and good, but bring your awareness into the fullness of your breath, the fullness of, a little self-massage for your lungs. And then last, we'll do some tapping. Okay, so there's lots of ways to tap. I'm going to take some fists and start at my low ribs. Okay, you can do anywhere you want. You can have open hands. You can do this with your finger pads. You can do this with some open fists. Make sure you're breathing as you do this. These bottom lungs tend to be kind of more stagnant than our upper. So give them a little bit of, shaking out. And then maybe move up. You can use open palms. And if you are, getting over a sickness or, you've had some lung stuff, this is a great thing to do. You can get under your armpits. Remember, you have some lung tissue there under your armpits. Okay, you can get up on the tops. You can go right at your collarbones. Your lungs kind of pop right above your collarbones when they have their fullness. So make sure you get all the places that you can reach. Okay. And then give your hands a shake. And now just enjoy everything you've just done for yourself. This is so good. It doesn't feel like typical yoga necessarily, but breathe deeply. Full inhales, full exhales. Your feet grounded, we're going to start twisting. Twisting is also a great way to move some lung tissue. Imagine what's happening on the inside. Okay, so of course, we kind of feel what's happening on the outside of our body, our skin, our muscles. But see if you can feel the viscera. Notice your breath, and you can do anything you want here. Your arms can be wide and high. They can be lower. You can move fast or slow. Make sure you're breathing. Your arms can flop on your body. Notice how getting your spine loosened up is such a beautiful aspect of your breathing. If our spine is super tight, chances are our breath is going to be super tight. Right, take nice wider legs. And then we're gonna move this into some depth. And swinging the arms low and then swinging them up high. Full breaths. You can go slow where your inhale is up here on the top and your exhale is down at the bottom. You can move a little faster if you want to. Just see what feels good. And then sweep across the table with your arms. Get into your legs now. All right, and then steady yourself into a deep squat. Round into the four corners of your feet. Maybe your head bows. How's your breathing? Full inhales. Full exhales. And a wide stance here. Let's turn our right foot out. Find your arms, lift them up. Big breath here. Exhale, Virabhadrasana 2. One more time. Steady your arms, legs straighten. Now we'll come in and find this form and stay. Now we've done a lot of shaking and moving and tapping and, a lot of quicker movements. So now we're coming more into still. So ground yourself. Notice if your breath can start to slow itself down. And of course, you can bring your arms down or put your hands on your hips. You can put your hands over your heart. You can have your arms out. Relax the shoulders and the base of the skull. Round into the legs. Feel how full you can get those bottom ribs as you breathe in and out. And let's reverse the warrior and open up through that side body. Maybe straighten your leg for a moment if you need it. And then Ardha Konasana. Elbow on your knee. Now feel all this side body length. Try to breathe into both sides of your ribs. Keep the base of the skull as relaxed as you can. A fullness in your inhale, fullness in your exhale. Let's come all the way back up again. Turn your feet over to the other side. Notice as we're slowing down our pace now, if your breath is starting to change, if your awareness of your nervous system is shifting, arms up, legs straight, and into Virabhadrasana. Again, one more time, arms and legs straighten up. And let's hold ourselves steady here. Relax the shoulders. And again, you can have your arms down. If some of the work that we've done is, if you're really focusing on trying to have that full breath, it might mean that you need to come out of the pose a little bit or go a little deeper or shift something in your body so that there's the capacity to stay in the breath. Try not to lift the shoulders and drop them. Lift the shoulders and drop them. Keep them down. Try to reverse your warrior. Feel that side body open up and breathe into it. If you need to straighten your leg for a moment, do that. And then find Ardha Konasana. Bend your knee, put your elbow on your knee or a hand on a block. Slide the shoulders down away from the ears. Open up both sides of your ribs. Try not to be arched like this. See if you can have those under ribs having as much expansion as the upper ribs. Ground into the four corners of each foot. Feeling your steadiness. And come all the way back up. And let's turn to the front of your mat for a dog pose. Feeling that long spine as your legs come back home closer. Notice what your lungs can do here. Maybe some sounding again. Ah. On your next breath in, come forward into a plank. And as you start to recruit a little more stability in your core, see if you can use the breath to kind of push against that core strength so there's still movement in your rib cage. It might flare out to the side now. Your diaphragm is going to be a little more constricted, so the breath has to accommodate and travel out to your sides. And then find the ground, knees to the floor if you need it. Let's do a shoulder roll again like we did in the beginning. And then inhale, cobra pose. Notice if cobra feels different. Now on your exhale, melt back down. One more time. Inhale, opening up. Exhale, releasing back down. Come up on tall fours. Move your spine around. And then travel back toward a child's pose. And settle your hips toward the heels. Breathe down the length of your spine. And then come up onto your shins when you're ready. Okay. You're gonna come into gate pose. Take your left foot out to the side. Press your right shin into the ground. You can have a block under your left toes if you need it. Try not to stick the hip out. We're stabilizing, hip in, shin down, tailbone down. Reach that arm up in the air and find your way over to a side body stretch. Full inhales, relax the shoulders away from the ears. Keep the base of the skull at ease. Press the shin into the ground. Come back up and let's reverse this. You can put your hand on a block or on the ground, whichever feels good, and stretch the arm over your head. Come back onto your shins and let's switch sides. Right foot is now coming out. We're on our left shin. You can put a block underneath your your right toes if you need. Keep the hip in line with the knee. Find your breath. Reach that left arm up in the air and arc over so the whole side body lengthens. Breathe into the whole side of your body. Keep the base of the skull relaxed. Try not to let the breath travel up into your neck. See if you can keep it in the ribs. And then let's reverse this. Hand on a block or on the ground and stretch your arm overhead. Reach your shin into the ground, tailbone descends. Finding breath. Come back onto your shins and rest in child's pose for a minute. Just let your back open up. You can have your knees close like I'm doing. You can have your knees farther in like a more traditional child's pose. Whatever feels good. Take some time to breathe. To feel that fullness of your inhale. The completeness of your exhale. And sit up in Virasana for a moment. You can sit on a block or on your feet or in between your feet, whatever's comfy. And if that's not comfy, you can just get up on your shins. Just take a moment to feel your breath. there a part of your lungs that feels stuck? Is there anywhere that's not as mobile as everywhere else? Bring your surrender, bring your softness, bring your spaciousness. Come off of your shins. Bring your hands down, lift up into a dog pose, stretch the backs of your knees. Take a moment to pedal your feet, opening up the backs of your legs, heart lifting to your pelvis, feeling that big fullness of the pose. Yield and push and reach. A full breath in. Enjoy your breath here. A full exhale. Walk your feet forward. Come to Uttanasana. A halfway lift. Melting and folding. Push off your feet. Come on up. Brace down through the center. Let's just have a little bit of a squeeze in this next pose. So eagle pose. You can do this with your butt against a wall if your balance is a little challenging. We're going to put the right arm over the left arm. Drop the shoulders, widen across your collarbones. Just enjoy the stretch before we add the legs. Lift your elbows up maybe a little bit. And if you pull your elbows away from you, try not to hunker the chest and hollow it out. Broad across your collarbones, open the heart. Full breaths. Notice the breath traveling into the armpits and along the sides of your body. Okay, now let's add the legs. Because our right arm is on top, we're going to put our left leg on top. So standing on your right leg, squat down and give a good squeeze. Squeeze your legs, squeeze your arms. Let your gaze soften and your peripheral vision take over. Butt against the wall if you need some balance support. And then unwind the pose and feel all the rush. Standing star. And then release your arms down and stand in Tadasana. Feel maybe that you have a stoutness of your heart, that your set point is now with an openness that is different than our collapsed nature that sometimes happens through the day. Breathe into that fullness. Okay, now we'll switch sides. So we're going to take the left arm on top, right arm below. And of course, remember, if you can't do this action with your shoulders, you can always put your elbows on top of each other and hold your shoulders. Okay, so there's lots of ways to support yourself. Drop the shoulders, open the collarbones. Maybe your elbows lift a little bit, maybe not. Breathing deeply. Okay, we'll add the legs when you're ready. So we're going to stand on the left leg, cross the right leg over and squat. Support yourself with the wall if you need it. Try to not hunch forward. Lift the heart. Draw your knees back into your hips. Spread your toes. Squeeze your legs. Squeeze your arms. Soften your gaze. Keep your breath alive, breathing into the armpits, breathing into the side bodies. Unwind this posture. Maybe the arms come up, maybe the arms come down. And eventually find yourself in Tadasana again. Now notice, does this posture feel a little more natural, a little more comfortable, like you could be self-supporting, self-sustaining? Unlock your knees. Let your breath travel down the elevator to the pelvic floor, to the knees, to the soles of the feet, like our diaphragm can drop down levels. sense of grounding and also a sense of spaciousness, open-heartedness. Last pass through vinyasa, arms up, open and wide. Exhale and float forward. Inhale for a halfway lift. Melt again, dog pose, stretch back. Come forward into a plank. Breathe into the sides of your body again. Lower yourself down to the ground. Inhale to a heart opening pose. And then exhale, release, find your way eventually into a child's pose. And just let your body relax as we settle ourselves on the ground here. Just breathing deeply, breathing fully. When you feel ready, you can flip over onto your back. Now you could do a million things, it's time for Shavasana, so we're not going to do a million things. But from here, if we had all the time in the world, where would you go with your practice? Start to pay attention to the desires of the body. If you follow impulses and intuitions, what would happen if you just got on your mat and didn't have any agenda of any kind? And you just followed and followed and kept following what the body's asking. So as we prepare for Shavasana, what do you need before Shavasana? Is there any pose in your body that's required to help you come into ease? So that's the one to take right now. Take your time. There's no rush, especially when you're home. You can just turn me off right now and keep going if you're like, oh, I have more to do in my practice. And then you can also always ignore me. You could lie in Shavasana for the entire class and just let your breath wash over you. And that would be a beautiful, perfect yoga practice. All right, so as you find Shavasana, decide how you want to be in this pose. Do you want your legs up? Do you want your head up? Do you want to be on your back or on your side or legs up the wall? Or, so many choices. If you are on your back, decide if you want your limbs close to the midline or far. And once you get settled and your body feels like it can surrender, be very conscious to let your limbs drop. Feel a sense of heaviness in your skull. There's nothing for your neck to do right now. It doesn't have to hold your head up, so melt the base of the skull. Open up and soften your jaw. Maybe separate your teeth and let your tongue relax. Widen your skull and your eyes and sense that all the space you have in your head. Once your body's relaxed, notice your breath. Is it a little easier to feel that rhythm of good breathing? Is your breath naturally more full right now? Have you changed your set point of what it means to have a full breath? Can you take a moment to really savor breathing, enjoy every aspect of what it feels like to breathe?
our most precious commodity, the breath is. And we forget about it all the time. And we shrink it down and we narrow it up and we don't give it its full day. Enjoy the full, spacious breath. The fullness of your breath again. Ready to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Turn your head from side to side. Just letting your body find its way into movement again. Take your time to curl on your side for a moment and let your back round and enjoy. And then when you're ready, coming up to a comfortable seat. Again, feeling the fullness of your breath. Maybe your heart is reset just a little bit to an open place. Again, not right to our chest, but a little away. Lift your heart. Let's offer our gifts, our breathing, to all those who are struggling. Truly, one of the greatest gifts you can give people in your presence is your healthy breath. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.